The day started like any other quiet morning in the small countryside of Earth. The wind was soft, the sun was just rising above the golden fields, and Eli Turner was finishing his breakfast when a loud sound broke the silence. It was not thunder, and it was not a plane either. It was something else, something strange. Eli stepped outside, shielding his eyes from the sunlight as he looked toward the sky. A silver object glowing faintly in the distance was landing in the open field behind his farmhouse. Dust rose in circles as the ground trembled lightly. Eli froze for a moment, unsure of what he was seeing. The people in town had talked about these new exchange ships for months, ships that carried companions from other worlds, beings who were part of a peace program meant to unite species. Eli never paid much attention to it. He lived a simple life, working his land and caring for his 10-year-old son, Noah. Since his wife passed away years ago, everything he did was for his boy. He grabbed his jacket and walked toward the field, his boots crunching against the dry grass. As he got closer, the silver object opened like a flower, releasing a soft mist. Out of the ship stepped a figure, slender, graceful, and trembling. It was a young, beautiful alien woman, wearing a pale blue suit that shimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes were large and bright, filled with fear and confusion. She held a small metallic device in her hands and looked around like a lost traveler. When her eyes met Eli's, she took a step back, unsure if he was friend or foe. Eli raised his hand slowly. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you," he said in a calm voice. The woman touched the small device, and it translated her soft words into broken English. You are my husband?" Eli's eyes widened. "What? No, there must be a mistake." She tilted her head, confused. The device blinked as she repeated, "I was sent here to be a companion." Address 14 Harvest Road. Eli felt a chill. That was his address. There had to be some mix-up. He hadn't ordered anything, let alone an alien companion. He was just a farmer trying to raise his boy. But before he could speak again, the ship suddenly closed its gates. A robotic voice said something in another language, and within seconds the craft lifted off, vanishing into the sky with a soft hum. Eli stood frozen. The woman looked at the empty sky, her expression breaking into fear. She seemed completely alone now. He sighed deeply. "Well, looks like you're stuck here for now." She didn't understand every word, but his tone was kind. She nodded slowly, clutching her device tightly. He motioned toward the house. "Come on, let's get you inside before someone sees you." Inside the farmhouse, everything was simple but warm. Wooden furniture, pictures of Noah on the walls, and the faint smell of soup still on the stove. The alien woman looked around curiously, touching the edge of the table, the old clock on the wall, and the curtains like they were rare treasures. Noah, hearing voices, wheeled himself into the room. He was small and thin, his legs covered with a blanket, but his smile was wide. "Dad, who's that?" Eli didn't know how to explain. "There was some kind of mistake, son. She's not from here." Noah blinked, then looked at her with open wonder. "She's beautiful," he said softly. The alien woman smiled for the first time. She knelt down so she was at his level and pressed her hand gently over her heart. "My name is Lyra," the device translated. "I come in peace." Noah laughed lightly, the kind of laugh Eli hadn't heard in months. "Hi, Lyra, I'm Noah." Watching them, Eli felt a strange mix of confusion and calm. Something about her presence made the room brighter, even though nothing had changed. Over the next few hours, Eli tried to contact the authorities. But the communication lines were busy, and the agency that handled the companion program had stopped responding due to system errors. That meant Lyra would have to stay, at least for now. Eli didn't like the idea of keeping someone who didn't belong there. But what choice did he have? She had nowhere to go, no one to call, and clearly didn't understand the world around her. That evening, he made her a place to sleep in the guest room. She sat quietly, folding her hands neatly on her lap, her eyes tracing the soft light of the lamp like it was something sacred. Before going to bed, Noah asked, "Dad, can she stay for a little while?" She looked scared. Eli looked at his son's hopeful eyes and hesitated. He remembered how quiet and lonely the house had been. How every night Noah would stare at the stars, dreaming of adventures he could never take. Maybe this accident wasn't so bad after all. "Just for a few days," he said finally. Noah smiled. "Thanks, Dad." That night, as Eli lay in bed, he kept thinking about how fate worked in strange ways. Somewhere out there, another family must be missing their alien bride. Somewhere, someone must be waiting for her arrival. But here she was, in his old farmhouse, sitting under his roof, trying to find peace in a world that wasn't hers. Outside, the wind carried the sound of the fields, whispering softly through the windows. Inside, Lyra sat by the window, gazing at the stars. She whispered words in her language, words Eli couldn't understand, but he could sense they were full of longing. Down the hall, Noah slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The alien woman, lost between two worlds, didn't know that she had already changed something in that house. And Eli Turner, though he didn't admit it to himself yet, had a feeling that the wrong delivery might just turn out to be the best mistake of his life. The next morning came with the smell of rain and the sound of birds waking up in the fields. Eli woke early, as always. He walked to the kitchen, half expecting to find that the strange event of yesterday had been just a dream. But when he stepped into the room, he saw her, Lyra, standing near the window, watching the raindrops slide down the glass. She looked peaceful, but there was something in her eyes, something distant. She turned when she heard him and gave a small nod as if she had practiced human manners overnight. "Good morning," she said slowly, her voice soft and unsure. Eli nodded back, a little surprised she was learning so quickly. "Morning. You hungry?" She tilted her head, trying to understand. Then she smiled faintly and pointed to a small loaf of bread on the table. "Food, yes," he chuckled. "Well, that's a start." As Eli prepared breakfast, Noah wheeled into the kitchen. The boy's face lit up the moment he saw Lyra. "Hi, Lyra," he said cheerfully. "Did you sleep okay?" Lyra's translator blinked as she replied, "Yes." The stars sang softly. "I sleep well." Noah giggled. "Stars don't sing here." She looked at him kindly. "Maybe not to your ears, but in space everything sings." Eli smiled to himself. It was strange, but she made even simple words sound special. She sat at the table, watching every move Eli made, how he poured the milk, sliced the bread, stirred the eggs. It was clear she was trying to learn. After breakfast, Eli called the companion agency again. Still no response. The line buzzed with static before cutting out completely. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Looks like you're staying a bit longer," he muttered. Lyra didn't understand the words, but she could sense his frustration. She walked up and gently touched his sleeve. "I help," she said, pointing outside toward the garden. "You want to help in the field?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded eagerly. Eli hesitated. The rain had stopped, leaving the earth soft and muddy. It wasn't exactly the place for someone from another planet, but she seemed determined. "All right," he said. "Just don't wander too far." He handed her a small basket and showed her how to pull weeds and collect the ripe vegetables. She moved gracefully, almost like she was dancing, her every gesture careful and precise. Even the simplest movement seemed full of curiosity. From the window, Noah watched them both. He had never seen his father talk so much to anyone since his mother died. And Lyra, she made the farm seem alive again. Noah smiled quietly, feeling a strange warmth in his heart. Later that day, Lyra found a small injured bird near the field. Its wing was bent and it chirped weakly. Without hesitation, she picked it up carefully and brought it to Noah. "It hurt," she said sadly. Noah looked at the tiny creature and frowned. "It can't fly anymore." Lyra knelt beside him. "Maybe can heal." She wrapped the bird in a soft cloth and placed it near the window, whispering something in her alien tongue. The sound was gentle and melodic. A few hours later, to everyone's surprise, the bird began to move its wing again. It wasn't fully healed, but it fluttered weakly, alive and hopeful. Noah's eyes widened. "How did you do that?" Lyra smiled softly. "Kindness," she said. "Everything listens to kindness." That night, as Eli tucked Noah into bed, his son couldn't stop talking about her. "Dad, she's amazing. She fixed the bird, and she told me about her planet. It has oceans that glow at night. Do you think she'll stay?" Eli brushed his hand through Noah's hair. "She can't stay forever, son. She doesn't belong here." Noah looked down, disappointed. "But maybe she belongs with us now." Those words stayed in Eli's mind long after Noah fell asleep. He went outside and looked at the sky where the stars shimmered faintly through the clouds. Somewhere out there was Lyra's real home, But here she was, learning to live in a world that didn't understand her. When he went back inside, he found her sitting by the fireplace, studying a family photo on the shelf. It was a picture of Eli, his wife, and a much younger Noah. She pointed to the woman in the picture. She gone? Eli nodded slowly. Yeah, long time ago. Lyra looked down, her voice soft. I am sorry. He didn't know how she understood so much emotion with so few words, but somehow she did. They sat quietly for a while, the only sound being the crackle of firewood. In that moment, Eli noticed something. Her eyes weren't just curious, they were kind. It had been years since anyone looked at him like that, not with pity, but with understanding. Over the next few days, their small house began to change. Lyra cleaned every corner, organized the shelves, and even found a way to fix the old wind chime on the porch. When she laughed, the sound filled the rooms like sunlight. Noah laughed more too. He told her stories about school, about how he dreamed of flying even though his legs didn't work. She listened to every word as if it were the most important thing in the world. One afternoon, Lyra brought him outside in his wheelchair. She pointed to the open sky. Maybe one day. You fly, she said gently. Noah smiled. Maybe with you. She touched his shoulder and nodded. Together. Eli watched from the porch, his heart heavy and full at the same time. He had spent so long believing his life was over, that happiness was something he didn't deserve anymore. But every time he saw Noah smiling with Lyra, he began to believe that maybe this strange accident was something more. Maybe a gift. That night, he found her sitting outside, watching the stars again. He joined her quietly. You really like the night sky, don't you? She looked at him, her face calm. Sky feels like home, he nodded. You miss it? She hesitated, then said softly, yes, but here feels warm. Eli didn't say anything after that. They just sat in silence, two souls from different worlds, sharing the same quiet peace. Inside the house, Noah slept soundly again, dreaming of stars and wings and a family that was finally whole again. And though Eli still didn't understand why fate had sent her to his door, a part of him knew that the world had changed the moment she arrived. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was the spark that brought life back into a home that had forgotten how to feel alive. Days turned into weeks, and the small farmhouse slowly began to feel alive again. Eli had grown used to hearing the soft hum of Lyra's voice as she spoke to the translator, learning new words every day. The once quiet house now had laughter, small mistakes, and warm conversations. Lyra's English was still broken, but her heart spoke a language everyone understood. She helped Eli in the fields, cooked simple meals that sometimes tasted strange but always came from effort, and spent most of her afternoons with Noah. Noah loved teaching her. He showed her how to draw, how to write her name in English letters, and how to play simple card games. In return, Lyra told him stories about her planet, a world with crystal lakes, blue moons, and plants that glowed softly in the dark. Noah would listen with wide eyes, imagining everything she said. One evening, as the golden light of sunset spilled through the window, Noah was painting while Lyra watched. She had become his biggest cheerleader. Every time he finished a painting, she clapped, even if it was messy or crooked. Beautiful, she would say, smiling proudly. Eli stood at the doorway watching them. He couldn't remember the last time Noah had looked so happy. His son, who once spent his days in silence, now had a friend who brought color into his world. Later that night, after Noah went to sleep, Eli sat on the porch with Lyra. The stars were bright, scattered across the sky like glitter. She pointed up at one of them and said, "Home." He looked at her quietly. "You miss it, don't you?" She nodded. "Yes, but here feels safe. Different, but kind." Eli smiled a little. "You've done a lot for Noah. He's happier than I've seen him in years." Lyra looked down, her voice gentle. "He reminds me of my brother." Eli turned his head. "Your brother?" She hesitated, her eyes reflecting the stars. He was small, like Noah. He could not run, could not walk, but he laughed always. "My people said he was weak, but I think he was strong here." She pressed a hand to her heart. "He died before I leave my world." Eli felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry." She looked at him, eyes soft. "You are good, Father." Noah lucky, he shook his head. "I don't know about that. I've just tried to keep going." She reached out, touching the sleeve of his shirt gently. You love him. That is enough. Her words stayed with him long after she went inside. Eli had always carried guilt. Guilt for his wife's death, for Noah's condition, for not being able to give his son a normal life. But Lyra's simple words somehow eased a weight he didn't know he was still carrying. The next morning, Noah was up early. He was excited because Lyra had promised to show him something new. She took him to the back field where the ground was covered in wildflowers. There she picked a few small stones and placed them in a circle. This, she explained, is a song place. Noah tilted his head. What's that? She smiled. On my world, when we feel sad, we make song circles. We put memories inside and let wind carry them. She held his hands and closed her eyes. The translator was off, but Noah could still feel the peace in her humming. The wind blew gently and the flowers swayed. It was as if the earth itself was listening. When she finished, Noah grinned. That was amazing. Can I make one too? She nodded. Yes, you make. You remember happy things. Eli watched from a distance, his heart warm. He realized that Lyra was teaching his son something no school ever could, the art of hope. As the days passed, the three of them fell into a rhythm. They ate meals together, worked together, and told stories by the fire. But sometimes, late at night, Eli noticed Lyra sitting outside, staring at the stars again. There was always a look of longing in her eyes. One night, he decided to ask, "You look at the sky a lot. Are you hoping someone will come for you?" Lyra turned slowly. Maybe, but also, maybe not. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. When I was sent here, I did not choose. My people made deal with humans. They said it was peace, but it was trade. They gave me away for things, metal, medicine, power. Eli stared at her in disbelief. You mean you didn't agree to come? She shook her head. I was told I will help, that I will make new life. But I was scared. When Ship left, I cried. Her voice was steady, but her eyes shone with emotion. I think, maybe Ship mistake, not mistake. Maybe I'm not supposed to go where they wanted. Maybe I was meant to come here. Eli's chest tightened. He didn't know what to say. Lyra continued softly. In my world, we believe every soul has path. Sometimes the stars send you where you need to be, not where you want to be. He nodded slowly, realizing she might be right. The wind rustled through the fields, carrying the scent of rain. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, as if listening to the earth. Here, I feel something. Peace, you and Noah. You are kind. You make me remember my brother. You make me feel not lost. Eli looked at her quietly, understanding now that she wasn't just an accident or a visitor. She was someone trying to find her place just like he was. The next morning, something strange happened. A government drone hovered over the field, scanning the area. Eli rushed outside, waving his arms to scare it off, but Lyra froze, fear flashing across her face. They look for me, she whispered. Eli quickly led her inside.
Stay here.
Don't move. The drone eventually flew away, but the tension lingered. That night, Lyra stayed close to Noah, her eyes full of worry. If they find me, she said quietly, I go away. Noah's voice broke. But I don't want you to go. Lyra placed her hand on his cheek. I don't want to. But if happen, you remember. Sky always watch you. You are strong. When Eli heard those words, something inside him changed. He realized he couldn't let them take her. Not after everything she'd done for Noah. Not after all the life she brought into their home. As the night deepened, the three of them sat together by the fire, the warm light flickering across their faces. No one spoke much, but they didn't have to. The bond between them had become stronger than words. Lyra wasn't just an alien visitor anymore. She had become a part of their story, a piece of their hearts. And even though the world outside might one day come looking for her, inside that farmhouse she had found what she'd always been searching for, a family. The air felt strange that morning, heavy and still, like the world was holding its breath. The sky, once blue and clear, had turned gray. Eli noticed it while working outside. The wind carried a low hum and the distant clouds looked dark, almost alive. Inside the farmhouse, Lyra was helping Noah with his painting. She had grown so comfortable there that it was hard to imagine she had ever been afraid. Noah was laughing, showing her how to mix colors on the palette. Look, he said proudly, if you mix blue and yellow, you get green. Lyra's eyes lit up as if she had discovered something magical. Green? Like your Earth, she said softly. Eli stood in the doorway watching them, his heart full. It was a picture he never wanted to forget. His son smiling again and the strange, kind woman who had brought joy back into their lives. But outside, the wind grew louder. The clouds rolled closer, and a low rumble of thunder echoed across the valley. Eli looked up, frowning. "Storm's coming," he murmured. By evening, the storm was no longer just a threat, it was here. Rain poured down like a curtain, slamming against the roof. Lightning flashed and the old windows shook. Eli moved quickly, checking the doors and bringing in tools from outside. "Lyra, stay inside with Noah," he shouted over the thunder. She nodded, pulling Noah's wheelchair closer to the fireplace. The power flickered, then went out completely, leaving them in the dim glow of the fire. Noah looked frightened, clutching Lyra's hand. "It's so loud," he whispered. Lyra smiled gently. "It is only Sky talking. It will calm soon." But as the hours passed, the storm only grew worse. The wind howled. Branches slammed against the walls and water began to leak through the cracks in the roof. Then suddenly Noah gasped. He pressed his chest with trembling hands. "Dad," he cried weakly. "I can't breathe." Eli dropped everything and rushed to him. Noah's face had gone pale, his breathing shallow. The sudden fear in Eli's heart was like a knife. "Noah, stay with me," he said, his voice shaking. Lyra knelt beside them, her hands trembling. "What is wrong?" she asked. "He's having a breathing attack," Eli said quickly. "He needs his medicine." He ran to the cabinet and grabbed a small device, but the power was out. The machine that helped Noah breathe wouldn't turn on. Panic filled the room. Eli tried the switch again and again, but nothing worked. No, not now," he cried. Lyra's eyes darted from the storm outside to the boy gasping in front of her. Then, without hesitation, she placed her hands gently on Noah's chest. "Trust me," she said softly. Eli froze. "What are you doing?" But Lyra didn't answer. She closed her eyes and began to hum, low, steady, and full of emotion. The sound wasn't human. It vibrated gently in the air like a melody from another world. A faint light, soft and blue, appeared beneath her palms, not bright, just calm. Noah's breathing slowed. His chest began to rise more evenly. His small fingers relaxed against hers. Eli watched, speechless. He wanted to move, to say something, but something inside him told him to stay quiet. The storm raged outside, lightning flashing across the sky. But inside the farmhouse there was a stillness, a strange, peaceful light surrounding the three of them. Lyra kept humming until the light faded away. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked pale and weak, her hands trembling. "He is safe now," she whispered. Eli knelt beside her, tears in his eyes. "How did you—" She shook her head. "No words, just old energy. From my world. I give too much, but it is fine." Eli looked at Noah. The boy was breathing softly now, his face peaceful again. Relief washed over him like a wave. He turned back to Lyra, who was leaning against the chair, exhausted. "You saved him," he said quietly. Lyra smiled faintly. "He saved me too, in other way." Eli didn't understand at first, but as he looked at her, tired, fragile, yet full of warmth, he realized what she meant. She wasn't talking about the storm or the moment. She was talking about the way Noah had given her purpose, how this small boy had made her feel like she belonged somewhere again. When the storm finally ended, the first light of dawn crept through the broken clouds. The world outside was wet and silent. Trees had fallen and the fields were muddy, but the farmhouse still stood strong. Eli went outside to clear the debris, his mind still replaying what had happened. He couldn't explain what he saw. No human could have done that. But he didn't feel fear. Instead, he felt gratitude, a deep, quiet gratitude that filled his whole being. When he came back in, Lyra was sitting beside Noah's bed. She had placed a small cloth on his forehead and was humming softly again, though this time her voice was weak. "You should rest," Eli said gently. She looked up, her eyes tired but peaceful. "I will, but I must stay. Until he wakes." Eli nodded and sat beside her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled softly and the sound of dripping water filled the quiet house. Then Eli said in a low voice, "You could have let me lose him and gone back to your people when they came. But you didn't," Lyra smiled faintly. "Because I am not mistake, Eli. I was sent here to heal something. Maybe not body, maybe heart." Her words touched him deeply. He looked at Noah, sleeping peacefully, then at Lyra, whose eyes were closing slowly. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The next morning, the sun rose bright and clear. The storm was gone as if it had never happened. Noah woke with a smile, asking for breakfast as if nothing had happened at all. Eli laughed through tears. "You scared us half to death, kiddo." Lyra smiled too, though she looked tired. "He is strong. He will be fine." Eli placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're the reason he's alive." "I don't know how to thank you." She shook her head softly. "No need, you gave me home. I only return kindness." That day, the three of them went outside. The world smelled fresh and new after the rain. Noah's laughter echoed across the fields, and Lyra's smile shone in the morning light. Eli stood behind them, watching, his heart full. The woman who had once arrived as a shipping mistake had now become the reason his family was whole, again. The storm had broken more than the clouds. It had broken the walls around their hearts, and though Eli didn't say it out loud, he knew the truth deep inside. Lyra wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was a part of them, a gift that came not by plan but by fate. The days after the storm felt different. The air was clear. The fields sparkled after the rain, and for the first time in years, the old farmhouse felt alive with peace. Noah had recovered quickly. His laughter filled every corner of the house, and Lyra's soft voice was always close by, singing gentle tunes from her world. Eli often found himself just watching them, his son and the alien woman who had come into their lives by mistake. She had become part of their routine, part of their family. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was the heart that kept their home warm. But deep inside, Eli knew peace couldn't last forever. The world outside would eventually notice. One morning, as the sun rose over the fields, a strange humming sound filled the air. Eli stepped outside and froze. In the distance, hovering above the valley, were two sleek silver ships like the one Lyra had arrived in months ago. They were scanning the ground, sending beams of light across the land. Lyra came to the door, her face pale. "They found me," she whispered. Eli's heart sank. "What do they want?" "To take me back," she said quietly. "My name is still on their list. They will not understand why I stayed." Noah, sitting near the window, overheard them. "They can't take you," he cried. "You belong here now." Lyra knelt beside him, her eyes full of emotion. "Noah, I will always be with you. Even if Sky takes me away, you remember? I am in here." She pressed her hand to his heart. "Every time you look at stars, I will see you too." Noah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want you to go." Eli clenched his fists, his chest heavy with helplessness. "There has to be something we can do." Before they could think of a plan, a vehicle arrived on the dirt road, a black one with the emblem of the Companion Program Authority. Two agents stepped out, dressed neatly, carrying digital tablets. They looked official, strict and distant. "Mr. Eli Turner," one of them said. "We're here regarding an interplanetary shipment error from several months ago. A subject named Lyra was delivered to your residence by mistake." Eli stood straight, his voice steady. "Yes, I know. But she's not a mistake. She's been living here peacefully. She's part of our family now." The agent looked at Lyra, then back at him. "Sir, that's not possible. She's government property. She needs to be returned immediately." Lyra lowered her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly. She didn't want trouble for them. Noah couldn't hold back. "She's not property." "She saved my life." "She helped my dad." "You can't take her." The agents hesitated. One of them sighed. "Look, we understand your feelings, but the law is clear. She doesn't belong here." Eli took a deep breath, his voice calm but firm. "Then maybe the law needs to see what belonging really means." He led the agents inside. The house was full of small signs of Lyra's presence. Her drawings with Noah, the repaired wind chime on the porch, the bird she had nursed back to health still perched near the window. Every corner told a story. "She came here by accident," Eli said. "But in this house she found a purpose. She's not dangerous. She's not a problem. She's family." Lyra stood quietly behind him, watching as he spoke. She had never seen Eli this strong, this determined. The older agent studied her carefully. "Is this true, Lyra? You wish to stay here?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, here. I am not lost. Here I am home." The two men exchanged uncertain glances. They were not cruel. They were just following orders. But something about the scene, About the boy in the wheelchair clutching her hand, the farmer standing protectively beside her, made them hesitate. Finally, the younger agent spoke softly. "We can file a transfer request. It's not common, but if approved, she can remain under human guardianship." Eli stepped forward. "Do it, whatever it takes." The agent nodded. "It will take some time, but we'll make a note." When they left, the ships in the sky followed them, disappearing beyond the hills. The farmhouse was quiet again, but this time the silence was full of hope. Lyra turned to Eli and Noah. "I thought they'd take me," she whispered. Eli smiled faintly. "Not if I can help it. You belong here as much as we do." Noah threw his arms around her as best as he could. "You're my family now, forever." Lyra's eyes glistened. "Forever," she echoed. Days turned into weeks once more, and life slowly returned to normal. The agency sent a message confirming that the transfer was approved. Lyra was now a legal resident, officially listed as a cultural exchange member under Eli's guardianship. Eli read the document out loud with a small laugh. "Guess that means you're officially one of us?" Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. "I was one of you before papers say." That evening they celebrated with a simple dinner. Lyra cooked her favorite dish using earth vegetables and spices she had learned to love. The taste was unusual but comforting. Noah declared it the best meal ever. Afterward, they all went outside to watch the sunset. The sky was painted in orange and gold, the fields glowing in the fading light. Noah pointed to the horizon. "That one looks like your world, Lyra. Maybe they can see us too." Lyra looked at the sky quietly. "Maybe they can, and maybe they will know I am happy." Eli glanced at her, then at his son. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt this peaceful. For years his life had been full of loss and silence, but now, standing beside them, he realized that the wrong shipment had brought the right miracle. As the stars began to appear, Lyra whispered softly, "On my planet, when we find people who change us, we call them heart stars, because they stay bright even when far away." Noah looked up. "Then we're your heart stars," Lyra smiled. "Yes, you both are." The night grew quiet. Crickets sang, and the cool breeze carried the smell of rain and earth. Eli placed an arm around Noah's shoulders and looked at Lyra, who stood just a few steps ahead, her eyes fixed on the heavens. "Funny," Eli said softly. "The universe makes so many mistakes, but this one turned out perfect." Lyra turned back and smiled, her voice warm. Maybe some mistakes are really gifts wearing the wrong name. And in that simple farmhouse, under the endless sky, 3 souls from 2 worlds stood together, not as strangers, not as accident and mistake, but as a family born out of kindness, courage, and fate. From that day on, whenever people asked Eli about the woman who came from the stars, he always said the same thing with a smile. She wasn't sent to the wrong home. She was sent to the right one.